We
Yes.
are back and we are excited to be here. Scott Tejerian, welcome to another week of Planets and Predictions. How you doing?
Oh, doing great, Dallisa. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. Always with you. Love it.
Oh gosh, I look forward to this. I get to talk to one of my favorite people, which is you,
Oh,
and
amazing.
we get to hear from all kinds of folks in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from today. We'd love to hear from you. And we get to talk about astrology and what's going on in the world. And I look forward to this every single week. So,
Same
uh,
here.
yeah, we were just talking backstage and we've got our websites on the screen there. I'm at spiritandspark.com. Scott's at theweeklytransit.com. But we were just talking backstage about the astrology of popes. And
Yes.
I found this so fascinating. I would love for you to share with all of us what you've noticed about popes and what astrological signs or signature
Yeah.
you've seen in their chart.
Yeah. So I did an episode on my podcast about a week ago, talking about the Pope, the new Pope Leo the 14th. And it's so funny because we're not sure of his birth time, but we think he's either, he's a Leo moon. And so does he know he's a Leo moon? I don't know, but why would he name himself Leo? So, but I've looked at just over a dozen popes, their astrological codes, and I want to get in deeper and see if I can find more date, time, and places of all the different popes that I can on astro.com. It's a great resource. But the three signs that jump out the most, there's always one of these signs, if not all three of these signs involved with the popes, are Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And what's interesting about that is, so even if you don't see like Virgo in the chart, like Pope Francis wasn't a Virgo sun, but he was a sixth house Sagittarius sun. And the sixth house is associated with the sixth sign, which is Virgo, and so Virgo is the sign of service. It's the virgin, so there's that chastity thing. Like, I think Mother Teresa was actually a Virgo sun. She was born with the sun in Virgo. And so, of course, like, she's the virgin. But they are, they're of service, right? Like, if we're talking about the the clergy, or whatever the proper term is, whether it's a pope or a nun, if they're really doing God's work, they're doing it to be of service to others. And there is sort of like a holiness, or a purity to that Virgo frequency, that I'm just going to continue to work and work and work and work and work and work and work to be the best person that I can possibly be, so that I can be of service to others. Then you have Sagittarius, which is, the orator. It's the archer, but the archer's who? The archer is Robin Hood. And who's Robin Hood's best friend? Friar Tuck. So his best friend is like a priest, or and so but Sagittarius is the truth teller. It's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter in the Old Norse tradition is known as Thor, and Thor is given the hammer of the gods. Why? Because they know that Thor is going to be righteous with that power. And so Sagittarius is the sign of righteousness, truth, honesty, but it's also a sign that has a very clear philosophical view of life. It's that connection to the higher power. It's really being able to open the channel, like you're able to do as a Sagittarius sun, and just you're talking to your guides and the higher power. And it's like, I don't know, this is what's coming through me, but that's what Sagittarius is about. So, and then the third one is Pisces. And Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. It carries the weight of the 11 previous signs. So it knows all the pain and suffering that has come before it. It feels all the pain and suffering of others. But when you think about Pisces, we're living in the end of the age of Pisces. And when did the age of Pisces begin? With the birth of Christ. What is the symbol for Pisces? The fish. What is the symbol for Christ before the cross? the fish. I will make you fishers of men. He turned, he was the fish and the bread and that sort of stuff, water into wine. Wine and water are ruled by Pisces. But Jesus is known for what? Suffering. And that's what Pisces is about. It's about feeling the pain and suffering of everyone around you and really having empathy and compassion for what others are going through. And so those are the three signs or aspects of those signs. Like there's other, there might be a pope that doesn't have Pisces in the chart, but Neptune is conjunct their ascendant or opposite their ascendant or directly aligned with their ascendant. And Neptune is the planetary ruler of Pisces. So it's all those little nuances that show up.
I love astrology so much. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to hear from our audience who has Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces placements, maybe sun, moon, and rising. And do you relate to what Scott just shared? I understand everything you just said. I feel like you just talked about like what I feel like I'm on a mission to do.
You are, yes. Yes. Well, and you're a Pisces moon and a Sagittarius sun, and you're a 6th house Sagittarius sun. So you have Pisces, Virgo, and Sagittarius all in your chart in very prominent positions. And so, maybe one day you will be Pope Dallisa.
The first female pope. Could you imagine? Yes. Oh, God. No.
Hey, you never know. You never know. Like the Catholic Church has changed a lot over the years. When you look back at what has happened historically with the Catholic Church, and when you think about where the transits of the planets are right now, and what's happened in the past, like we're at a period where there could be some dramatic shifts with the Catholic Church. Like the last time Neptune was in this position, the Catholic Church, they had domain over the state of Italy. Italy wasn't even a country. Italy wasn't a country until like the 1860s. That's when they finally were able to segregate themselves from Catholic rule. So, it's a lot of things could change over the next few years, I imagine.
All right, you heard it here first. June 3rd, 2025. Oh, gosh.
We got Vanessa Bradley's a Virgo rising Sag moon. Vanessa Bradley. Yeah, awesome. We got another Sagittarius moon here. Yeah. To be honest, I have no idea what I have. Okay. Daniela, yeah, call me for a reading and we'll do your chart and tell you where all the planets are for you.
Interesting. Yeah. And the other thing we were talking about backstage that I want to dig into a little bit, you were talking about how you were hired by a startup, it sounds like, where they're having you do the astrology charts of the people that are there in the company, and why they're having you do it. And I thought it was so fascinating because sometimes we think of astrology as like, oh yeah, I want to see what's coming in my life in terms of themes, but it can be used as such a powerful tool, especially when it comes to business. So talk to us a little bit about what you're doing with that project and how it's helping them.
Yeah, well, it's a dream come true for me to be working with a company, a startup, or an organization. Like I love, of course, on an individual level, I love helping people understand who they are so they can accept, appreciate, and love who they are. But even beyond that, I just have such a strong desire to work with groups. So working with a startup or a company to help everybody in the company understand who they are as individuals so they can accept, appreciate, and love who they are, but then also understand each other so they can accept, appreciate, and respect one another. And really, I'm inviting them to share with me what their struggles are, what their challenges are, and really notice how, this one person maybe shouldn't be doing this job. It's not in their skill set. But they're an asset to the company, like I would not let this person go, but I would find them another position that works over here where they're doing something more to their strengths. So, astrology, I have several clients that are like CEOs of startups. And so like they come to me to help me understand, or to help them understand the people that they're working with, so that there's more cohesion and fluidity. And I really work with them to understand the people that they're working with, so that they can speak to them in the manner that is going to be most effective for the outcome that they desire.
Imagine if every company did that. Or what if it was, like part of your welcoming gift or part of the interview process?
Yes. I think we're headed that direction. I mean, I would honestly be shocked that if in 20 years, when Pluto's exiting out of Aquarius, if it's not like that, because I just see so much of a push and openness, just from clients that are coming to me that, they work in the corporate world and they're like, help, and so, and I give them help. And it's just through helping them understand energetically how the people that they're working with operate, so that everybody can be working in an environment where they feel empowered and independent, and they can be uniquely themselves. It's like, what's better than that? If you have a company where everybody's excited about what they're doing because it feels right to them, and then they're motivated, and then there's going to be greater productivity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I think that we will see more of the astrology involved in the pre-hiring, at least it should be. I could
Absolutely.
see, and as you were sharing all that, I could see this vision of an entrepreneur or a CEO or HR director saying, okay, Scott, here's the role I need to hire for. Here are the 5 most important things to be successful in this role.
Mm-hmm.
What should we be looking for? And even taking it a step further, that you become like the astrologer / recruiter, where what kind of makeup could be successful, and you filter out the applications that are coming in based on their birth charts, and you hand them like, okay, here are the top 5 I've narrowed it down to based on their astrology chart. Why not?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I just want to give a shout out to Anne Marie, who said, Scott, this is so cool. I wish they would do this at my company. Yes. But that's my vision is where, you apply for a job, you're giving them your address and your social security number, all this personal information. It's like, yeah, let's get the date, time, and place of their birth too. And I really want every person who's applying to whatever company that I'm working with to understand that, like, they are valued. If you're not getting hired, there's not that there's something wrong with you. It's just not maybe the right fit for this position. I want every person that I'm working with to feel empowered and elevated by the experience. And so, but really, like, getting into a company and helping them learn how to organize like this, in order for, like, there's so much power in these bodies. Like, we are not harnessing the power correctly if we're trying to push somebody into a direction that doesn't fit for them. You want this person to be in an area where they can thrive, because if they're thriving in your company, then your company is thriving. And so
you could make a real case for the return on investment.
exactly, that's what it is. Totally. And also another vision of mine is just reinventing the work week. The work week is so screwy. The fact that, like, Saturn Day is supposed to be the day where everyone's out partying. I mean, no, that's supposed to be a day of work. It's not, but like Friday is Venus Day. Like, that's a day of relaxation and love and moon day. Why is everybody so moody on Mondays? Well, because it's Moon Day. and they're sending people to work on the day that's ruled by the moon. Like, why would you do that?
Oh, hold on. Sorry, my cats are fighting.
That was intense.
Yes, and it lines up with Monday talking about moody people because my cat just went ballistic underneath me. It's like, do you say something as you're talking?
Oh my
or
God.
Just let it go on?
Wow.
Oh God.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So Monday is moody people, or
Yes.
on a Tuesday afternoon.
Well, Tuesday is the day of Mars, and your cats are at war with each other right now. So, yeah.
Yes. But Friday is a interesting point, because Fridays, I felt that too, right? Where I try to take Fridays off. And it feels so good to have Fridays off. And maybe part of me was like, yeah, everybody else has to work, but I can take a Friday off. Because then it feels like you can go to places and they're not so crowded. And like, we are going to a theme park on Friday this week. So I try to incorporate in those very Venus type things, but I didn't realize like why I was doing it on Fridays.
Yes, that's it. Venus is like the senses and relaxation and doing, fun things. Love the reactions to your cats over here. And so Yolanda never knew about the days of the week. So just to break that down real quick, if I may, Dallisa, like Monday is Moon Day, so any Spanish speakers out there, Monday is Luna or Lunes, the moon is Luna, Monday is Lunes, Tuesday is Martes, Marte is Mars, but Tuesday is named for Tur, which is the Old Norse god, which is associated with the Roman god Mars. So that's why it's Tuesday for us. Wednesday is Woden's Day. Woden is an Old Norse god, which is associated with the Roman god Mercury, which in Spanish is Mercurio. And then Wednesday is Miércoles. Thursday is Jueves, Jupiter. Thor's Day. Thor is the Old Norse god for associated with the Jupiter, or the Roman god Jupiter. Friday is Frigg. Frigg is the Old Norse god associated with the Roman god Venus. And that's Frigg. Viernes and Venice in Spanish. So Viernes is Friday. Saturday is obvious. It's Saturn Day. Sunday is obvious. It's the day of the sun. So that's how it breaks down. So I think Vanessa Bradley was like, I vote for a 3-day work week. Yeah, it should be like, Tuesday's the go day, Wednesday's the communication day, Thursday is the expansion day, and then you have off Friday. Maybe you do some work on Saturday because it is Saturn Day, but then Sunday and Monday you're off on those. So yeah. Let people,
like working half time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, figuring out how to work just part of the week.
I think the work week really just depends on like what's going on astrologically for you too. So, oh, cool. Thank you, Daniela.
The basics of astrology. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I'm saying your name right. Daniela? Is it Daniela? Yeah.
Somebody asked earlier what your sign was. So share.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'm a Scorpio sun, a Pisces moon like Dallisa, and a Taurus rising. Yeah, my Pisces moon, sis.
Yahoo!
Yeah.
So going back to the days of the week for a second, do you think because Wednesday is Mercury, if I heard that right, then if you have to have an important conversation, do you think you have more favorable energy on a Wednesday?
I would think so. That's a good time to do it. I would always look at like where the planets aligning in my astrological code, what's connecting. But if it happens to look good on a Wednesday and it looks good on like say a Saturday, I would probably choose Wednesday instead because there's going to be more flow.
I love this comment. Semi-sweet.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good for you, semi-sweet.
Yes. And then Saturday is work around the house
There
kind
you
of day.
go. There you go. Yeah. Or Saturday could be also a day of like planning, planning the work and because Saturn is about planning and committing and committing to take the steps that you need to take in order to achieve your goals and ambitions. So, yeah,
Gives us a lot to think about in
for
regards to
sure.
our schedule and how we're doing our work throughout the week.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's jump into the headlines
Yeah, let's do it.
and see what the heck is. We've had every week. I'm like, oh, it's been a big week, lots of news stories,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then just hasn't stopped.
Hmm.
All right, let's move our little jar out of the way. In case you're new to the show, if you comment on the live stream, you get your bauble in the jar. I will pull a winner at the end of today's show. You'll get a 12-month personalized tarot report. So in case you're wondering what the heck is on the screen, that's what it is. Okay. This has been all over the news the last couple of days. I think this one, I mean, it's obviously horrendous and tragic. The Boulder attack. This person had a makeshift weapon and sounds like letting off fire bombs. But the reason why it caught my eye, yes, it's one of the big headlines from the past week, and people were hospitalized with burns and injuries, but fire. We had talked about looking for things that had to do with fire and air.
Right.
And so this was a big story about the use of fire. Yeah, is there anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, well, I mean, so you bring up fire, and there's just we were talking about fire a couple weeks ago because Mars is still transiting through Leo, which is fixed fire, so the god of war in the fixed fire sign of Leo, and then you've got Venus, Chiron, Neptune, and Saturn all in the cardinal fire sign of Aries, which is ruled by Mars, the god of war. And then you have the sun, the planetary ruler of Leo, Mercury, and Jupiter all in Gemini, which is mutable air, and Pluto in Aquarius. So you have 4 planets in air, 5 planets in fire. Air fuels fire. Fire raises the air. I mean, it can create a lot of combustible frequencies, I imagine. And this, I guess, is a religious attack or something. Is that what it looks like here?
Yeah, I think there's mention of Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's connected to what's happening overseas. And then there's all kinds of secondary headlines, going around about him, his maybe lack of citizenship, or what his citizenship status or visa status is. So there's just so many layers to stories these days that, it's not like the evening news in the 1980s where the anchor would be on the same story for 3, 4, 5 nights in a row, maybe adding a little bit of extra information each night as they get it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like you have so many headlines every day, and it's not just the headline. Then it's what's the subtext? What does this person think? What does that person think? And so there's so much to unpack, and we really don't know the real 100% truth of anything. I mean, what is truth?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Again, just living in the age of Pisces, like we don't know who knows what is real, and that's why I just try to stay focused on what's going on inside these 4 walls, and the people that are coming through, my life in physical reality, because that's all I can, pretend to control. Not that I can even control that, but it just helps keep me grounded. And I think that's the thing is, how can you stay grounded right now with all this air and fire? Because there may be the urge to just kind of erupt.
Yeah. I think we're going to get to that in one of our other news stories about that headline about eruptions. But
Mm.
I even saw this week, there was a story about the 9/11 hijackers and how there is this theory, and perhaps the theory is gaining some more steam, but that the hijackers were not the people that took down the planes, that the planes had actually been taken over by some kind of control system and crashed. So it's going to be very, very tricky with any kind of story to understand what's true, what's not true. I was channeling last night. Now I remember one of the things. I haven't listened back to it. It's like a 30-minute audio recording. But one of the things that I was hearing last night was the people you know in different locations that will give you firsthand account is going to be your ticket to real information. And with the rise of AI, there's going to be so much that can be fabricated so easily and for free and quickly that it will be like this soupy mess of a container where we really will not know truth from fiction unless there's some kind of third-party verification system that's created. But asking your friend that lives in the location where the news story is supposedly happening and asking them what's going on is probably going to be the way that you'll have more factual information.
Always.
As time. Yeah.
Always. I mean, like, it's, I can only, like, for instance, during COVID, I live in Los Angeles, and it's just so funny to hear people say, like, they don't live in LA, they're living in other places, just like, oh, it's so bad there. And yeah, it probably was worse here than other places, but I don't know. I mean, it didn't seem, I don't know. I felt like a lot of it was overblown. And, because everybody has their sort of their own motivations for, to kind of coerce people to think one way or the other. And it just goes to show how powerful we are as individuals, that somebody would really care enough to try to fool you into thinking something that wasn't true. So it's just a reminder to everyone out there how powerful you are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes, yes. Okay, let's go on to our next headline. Let's see what's. Oh, okay. So you were talking a minute ago about like the Pisces era and all of that. And so that's what caught my eye with this headline. A lot of people had opinions this week about whether Elon Musk has been on a binge with drugs and which drugs and when was he using drugs. I don't really care what he's doing in his own life. Yeah. But the headline caught me because I thought about like a Piscean energy, just that drug use and lack of boundaries or haziness. But that could also be Neptune, right?
Yeah, like the word that jumps out at me in this entire headline is the word ideology. This is something that we've talked about the last couple times I've been on here with Neptune transiting into Aries. That, the last time Neptune transited through Aries was during the American Civil War, which was a war of ideology. The ideology was that I am superior to this race, so I can own them. I can have slaves. That was the ideology. And people went to war over that. So, the fact that they're writing an article about Elon Musk and then they're attaching far right ideology, that makes me think that the person who's writing this is coming from a far left ideology. So, but it's ideology all the same. Like the fact that somebody cares, that this guy is maybe using ketamine, ecstasy, or mushrooms. And like you said, whatever, it's his own business. But, that is that Piscean effect of, delving into the unconscious in some manner. And so whatever, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know him. I just find it interesting that, I don't know. Elon Musk is such a fascinating. I'm convinced. Here's my own. Thank you, Jackie. Here's my own perspective of Elon Musk. Now, I haven't heard anyone say this, so this is my own uh, thoughts. But I think Elon Musk is a really smart businessman, and when he first came out with the Tesla, who was buying the Teslas? Everybody on the left. You go around LA, everybody has a Tesla. Everybody has a Tesla, And so, but there's another group of people who weren't driving Teslas. That was the people on the right, because the people on the right are like, no, gas. Like, I'm not doing these electric cars. Screw that, And so what does Elon Musk do? He starts cozying up with the right. And now the right, like, I saw the strangest thing on the freeway the other day. I was like, just broke all stereotypes. Like, I was driving down the freeway, and it was one of those Tesla trucks, right? They're just hideous looking, like strange looking Tesla trucks. And on the side of this truck, I thought I took a picture of it. I looked on my phone. I don't know where it went, but there was a painting of like a bald eagle breaking through like an American flag. It was like the most like you would think like redneck Texas, like, decal on the side of the truck. And I looked in the window, and it was two, like Asian people that were like in their 20s, like this Asian couple, like a guy and a girl. And I'm like, wow, okay. Like, that just broke all the stereotypes I was expecting to see. But that's the thing. These are the types of people that are now buying Elon Musk's product, are the ones who are on the right are now buying his product. So I even saw a bumper sticker on a car, a Tesla, the other day that said, I bought this Tesla before Elon Musk went crazy. And I actually know people that sold their Tesla because of Elon Musk. But most of the people on the left are still driving the Teslas, and now he's got all the people on the right driving the Tesla. So I think he's it's all business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He's a hard one to kind of pin down. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Let's see what we got next. Disney laying off several hundred in TV and film entertainment, corporate, and finance. So we've been talking some about AI and how jobs are going to be changing, and how I'm seeing a lot around the automation and potentially even some kind of universal basic income and everything that looks like. And we know that Uranus is in the late degrees of Taurus, and so I don't know if that has to do with layoffs, but I think it's becoming more and more challenging, I think, for people to find jobs. It's not impossible, but I just feel like it's ratcheting up even more. And so when you see a headline like this with a company that's laying off a bunch of people, where are those people going?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know, but everybody has to adapt. And that Uranus is revolutionizing our self-worth and values. So, if you're one of these people who's being laid off by Disney, let's say, you have to revolutionize what you feel like your value is. Like, where can I really contribute in a meaningful way? It's it's tough to get laid off and lose your job, but it can also be a resurgence or a reawakening of some sort. So I think the Uranus in Taurus, but then also Saturn and Neptune in Aries is urging us to redefine who we are, to reimagine who we are. And if you're laid off from your job, you have to reimagine who you are. You have to redefine who you are. You're no longer defined by the company or corporation that you work for. And so that's what's coming up with Neptune, Saturn in Aries, and Uranus in Taurus.
I've done this exercise before, but encouraging people to think about if you were to walk into a party and you didn't know anybody and somebody walks up to you and reaches out their hand to shake your hand and you couldn't tell them what you did for a living or where you worked, how would you introduce yourself? What would you talk about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I
Exactly.
do. I think we get so caught up in the title of what we have on the business card or what we can tell someone that we do, or did I get high enough in the organization? I remember when I was in my early 30s, I had this dream that I would be a director by the time I was 35. And then a wild thing happened. I became a director by the age of 35 in the hospitality industry in Las Vegas at this really big fancy hotel. And then I just kind of was like, no, well, okay.
This is not what I thought it was going to be.
Sometimes you like create this story in your mind of like the goal and what it means when you reach the goal and the story that you get to tell with that goal. And then you get there and realize like you're still the same person you were when you were the manager a week before. So
Okay, I guess it's just me. Is anyone still with us here? Leave a chat, leave a note. Let's see. Then it will go back asking, what is your sign? What do you mean by that, Cindy? Feed was delayed. Sorry. Okay, Jackie. Who's with me? Who's still here? Let's keep talking. You froze, Dallisa. Yes. Thank you, Autumn. Scott's still here. Can you hear me? Can you see me? So if you can, I will keep talking. I will share about astrology stuff. Dalisa's, it's the Scott Show. Yes. Okay, cool. Awesome. Awesome. Dalisa, I guess, changed. Okay. So
I'm back.
you're back. Okay. Awesome, Dallisa.
Who knows? I bet when my cats are fighting, they wiggled the cord loose. Oh,
Okay.
let's see. What do we have? Yeah, no, you are always welcome to take over the show, Scott. All right.
Thanks, Dallisa.
The war energy kicking up a notch.
Yeah.
So Iran poised to dismiss U.S. nuclear proposal, Iranian diplomat says. So still some heat in the kitchen around war.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about Saturn and Aries being an indicator. We've talked about Uranus going into Gemini being an indicator July 7th. So we know we're in that vibe. We know we're in the energy of potential major conflict if we just compare it to past events in our history.
Yes.
So what do you have any, I know we've talked about this the last few times you've been on the show, but is there anything you want to add to the astrology or the war aspects that you're seeing or feeling?
So I think that what's going to happen, and I don't know specifically in terms of like wars and that sort of stuff, but I'm just talking energetically with the astrology. In about a week, Jupiter transits into Cancer, and Cancer is cardinal water. So it's immediately going to square off with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which is cardinal fire. And the planet of expansion squaring off with the planet of restriction might feel like, we are collectively able to see what we want to occur, but we can't bring it to happen. And that might create a really powerful frequency of frustration and anger and agitation. Like, I just speak from my own personal experience. When the last time Jupiter squared my Saturn, I lost it. I was driving my car and nothing crazy happened, but I just remember driving my car home from work. This was 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago, 7.5 years ago. And I just was screaming because I could see what I wanted. I was at the beginning of my astrology uh, awakening. I was getting some work, but and I could see like I'm really good at this, and I think I can make this my career, my living, but it's felt so far away. And I had a really hard night at work, and I just was screaming in my car on the drive home. I can go back to that place right now. It was so profound. And I was just frustrated. And of course, that's the day that Jupiter squared my Saturn exactly. And, it was another 2.5 years before I was able to leave that job and become a professional astrologer. So, because of that tension in June, and then when we get to July and Uranus moves into Gemini, and then it's aligning with Saturn and Neptune and Aries, which are all aligning with Pluto in Aquarius, the tension like that kind of constricts us in June is going to open up and maybe explode in July. And maybe it's a good thing. Like maybe we're like, oh my God, I can see it all happening now. Or maybe, it's something that's intense and dark and heavy because it's like a pressure cooker that's blown.
Those were part of the messages of last night's channeling. Um, because, the last
Wow.
few weeks, I've kind of felt like, oh, feels like it's kind of simmered and haven't been feeling like the intensity that I was feeling around war. And I wasn't getting a lot of those downloads around war and big catastrophes and stuff. I'm like, wow, maybe we're going to be okay. And then last night, it's like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. So
Hmm.
that energy is still there, but for whatever reason, we had a little bit in my psychic view of it, we had a
Yes.
little bit of a simmering. Yeah.
It could be the calm before the storm.
Mm.
That's maybe what it is. So, I mean, I think it's interesting that you're picking up on that too. And so I feel like, because in July also, it's Mercury retrograde. And so, you're just going to add that to the stew in July, Mercury retrograde in Leo. So we're all going to be extra dramatic. It's like, yeah, yeah. People might be saying things that create some explosions in life and relationship. And
Mm.
yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Autumn here, who says that I seem mellow. Well, I'm a Taurus rising, so I'm very chill on the outside, but I'm a Scorpio too, so I can be really intense, Autumn. And when that
Oh.
Pisces moon gets going and the tidal wave comes, it's like so it doesn't happen very often, Autumn, but when it does, oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Could be some fireworks in July for sure. I think the fireworks might actually be like the preamble of the actual explosions. I think it will happen maybe a little later in July is when things will really kick off and potentially be intense. Yeah.
That's why we talk every week so we can.
Exactly. To keep our pulse on keep our fingers on the pulse of things.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I do this for myself. I just say it
Yeah,
for everyone else.
exactly. Right.
I'm like, so what does Scott think about this?
I love it, Dallisa. Yes.
Oh gosh, this I think just echoes what you were saying, but this is Ukraine and Russia
Hmm.
hold peace talks after a weekend of dramatic escalation and fighting. It sounds like
Hmm.
they're still throwing stuff at each other, and yeah.
Yeah.
I pulled tarot cards about it. It would have been middle of last week. And I asked this question specifically about Ukraine and Russia, what's going to happen in 2025. And the card said that there would, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, there'd be like this dramatic escalation,
Hmm.
but then they would figure out like how to have a talk and how to come together. So that was just last week. I think I did that on Thursday morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's interesting because, you know, over the weekend, where was the moon? In Leo, fire, dramatic. So there you have it. Dramatic escalation in fighting. Well, of course, there's going to be a weekend of dramatic escalation in fighting when the moon is transiting through the dramatic fixed fire sign of Leo. Yeah.
got to add this to your Taurus talk.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm chill on the outside, but boy, once you get that bowl going.
That's
Yep.
funny.
Yep.
Yeah, but even just talking about the different zodiac signs and like characteristics and things they may be known for, it helps us to start to think about other people in our life and what sign they are and looking at
That's
their chart
it.
and getting into it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I don't even I don't even see people as people anymore. I just see their astrological code. I'm just thinking, oh yeah, they're a Sagittarius moon, or they're a Taurus rising, or I just
Yeah,
it's like
you've
the
done it to
Matrix.
me. Yeah, you know my chart. And so
Oh
like
yeah,
when we're backstage, because we're friends, and so I'll mention like an update, what's going on in my life, and you'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's because you have da 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 da," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay."
I
Oh,
love
it's
it.
awesome.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I love it. Okay, I always welcome your insight. Okay,
Thank you, Dallisa.
yes, this one is another just punches you in the gut.
Yep.
But more than 20 killed near aid distribution site in Gaza. So we
Yeah.
still are hearing news stories about Gaza and the war that's surrounding it, and it just doesn't seem like it's coming to any kind of halt. Just feels like what you were saying a little bit ago about it just is this escalation. And in July, you were saying that it's pointing to potentially a larger escalation later in
Mhm.
July.
Yep.
So we're seeing the headlines that back this up, but we've been talking about how there were going to be more stories about war and different countries going after each other. So,
Yep.
and you've been studying transits well far in advance before they've happened. So you even
Mhm.
knew that this was coming a long time ago.
Mhm.
But now we're actually seeing it hit mainstream news.
Yes.
But we don't think it's going to be slowing down with the war headlines.
No, I think it's I think things are going to kind of get choked off and intensified this month, and then in July they're going to combust, or expand and just blow up in some way. So I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I want to look at it and think, that since we're these four outer planets that we're talking about, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn are all in air and fire signs. They're making positive aspects to each other. But I don't know. It feels like something is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is, or and I'm wanting to think that it's going to be positive because they're making positive aspects to each other. And I think that for some people, it will be positive, and I think that's important for everyone to remember, so they don't get sucked into these news stories. I'm not saying stick your head in the sand. Obviously, care for what's going on with other people, but don't discount your own life, and really focus your attention on what you need to do to thrive in life. And so, especially if you have key astrological points or planets in the first 3 degrees of any air or fire sign, like this July could be a time for you to take off in whatever area is being aligned with those four planets. Like it could be, if it's Venus, then maybe something bigger, exciting is happening in your relationship. If it's Saturn, then maybe you're reaching a new level of achievement. There's always pain and suffering happening in the world. You don't have to be a part of all of it. You've got your own to deal with.
Yeah, make the best of Earth School. I
Yeah.
saw the question here about Jackie asking if I have any sense big energy changes with Gaza. And Jackie's saying this feels so big in cultural shift. So I just pulled 3 tarot cards just to see what these next 6 months, a theme perhaps. I do think it's going to continue to be in the headlines. I don't think that comes as a surprise, but I pulled the sun. And the sun for me can be like a big spotlight, like a big light coming out of a lighthouse that's saying, this is going to be something that's going to be front and center for a lot of us with news stories we're going to be hearing about. So I don't think it's going away. The other 2 cards are interesting. They both are cards of solitude. So I have the Hermit and I have the 4 of Swords. And the Hermit, I think in a high frequency, can really lean into its wisdom, what it's learned. So is there potential for them to change this and turn it around and come to some kind of resolution? Yes, but it would take kind of that wise elder kind of energy to lean into that and not be afraid to say, why don't we come to the table and see if we can talk about this? My concern is this card, the 4 of Swords. So this card for me in my deck, he is laying down and he's inside of a church. You can tell it's a church because it has stained glass here. But this is a card for me that can indicate a lot of loss. It's a card that I associate with death or somebody, getting closer to passing over. So I don't like this. And as I'm talking about it, I have chills coming up my legs. So I do think there's going to be more devastation that happens. And I do think it actually escalates more. But I'm hoping that Hermit card emerges and brings some of these more advanced, perhaps, souls that are wanting to align in a different way, come together and see how they can make that happen. But overall, I think the world is going into a pressure cooker. Somebody said, Constance mentioned in the comments, it's like, yes, I think it's going to become an even bigger pressure cooker in so many ways. And this is one of the ingredients in the pressure cooker.
So think about it like this. If the pressure cooker in the kitchen is about to blow and you pull the Hermit card, it's probably saying, don't go in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So even though there's going to be a lot of attention to this chaos, don't get involved in that. Scale back and, reflect. That's why I'm wondering if that's what that means.
Yeah. The Hermit card, if I pull it for an individual, that is a card of solitude. I'm like, okay, you got to back away, step off of this, go find your inner refuge, go find the peace and the space that you need to sit with yourself. Yeah.
And that's going to be the challenge, because with all these planets in air and fire vibing off of each other, people are really going to be drawn out. They're going to be drawn out of the cave. But you want to balance that out by maybe, spending more time in the cave, even though the energy is drawing you out. Because out there may be that card where it's a stained glass window and you're lying in the coffin. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Don't get caught up in the headlines.
Don't get
caught up. Yeah.
No.
Mount Etna. We were talking about this a little bit ago about the other story with the guy with the fire.
Yeah.
In Colorado. And now we have Mount Etna.
Wow.
When I saw this happen, I was like, duh. Like,
yeah, of course.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
Big fire, lots of smoke. And like you said, air, fanning the fire, and that fire getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We've talked about natural disasters and how there's going to be big things that pop off and how they may relate to things that are fire or air in nature. And so here we are, Mount Etna, volcano erupts with a massive ash cloud and a lava fountain. It doesn't get more like literal than that.
And this, again, is dated on June 2nd. So I imagine this happened like on June 1st or, maybe maybe on June 2nd. And, I mean, the moon was in Leo. So, on this day when that volcano erupted, there were 6 planets in fire and 4 planets in uh in air, and the only planet in Earth, so this is exploding the Earth, is Uranus, the planet of revolution, the planet of the unexpected. And it's like, oh my God, it's gonna blow. It's like, what? Yeah.
It was wild seeing, I just saw a couple clips, but like you could tell that there was somebody at a restaurant on the patio of the restaurant. It had like this pretty umbrella, and they're standing out there recording Mount Etna going off. The first thought in my brain was like, I want to be the hermit and get away from the pressure cooker.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
some people are like, oh, let's just see what
cool.
this
Let's
does.
look at this. Oh, wait, it's getting too close. Once that thing gets too close, it's too late. So, yeah.
You are the wise sage and elder, Scott.
Thank you, Dallisa.
That's what Jackie calls you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Jackie.
Yes, and good point. Fire is pretty. We want to look at it, but it distracts too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's
And then we have
fire.
a wildfire, another story.
Wow.
Yep. And so there's been some talk about, where is the smoke in the United States going to be seen, or is that going to affect breathing in the northern states of the U.S.? And so they're just keeping an eye on it. But I do think we're going to have a really gnarly, bad wildfire season. But here we go. It's on the headlines. Yeah. Let's see what we have our last story. People are cooking at home at the highest levels since the start of the pandemic, according to Campbell's.
That's interesting.
Yes, and Campbell's would know a thing or two. They obviously have a lot of data. They sell a lot of products. So they would be able to tell what these trends are. And they're saying that people are cooking at home. And I absolutely think this is true. We've talked about the economy softening and people becoming more aware of what they're spending on, and do they value the things that they're spending on their money on. And so this feels right in alignment with what we've talked about in our last few shows together. So you know what? I don't hate this.
No.
I think it's great. I think that people should be sitting at home and eating dinner together and cooking food, and, maybe being a little bit more aware of what ingredients they're using and what they're eating and how it affects their bodies. So yes, I think they should cook at home more.
Exactly. It's values, right? Because it's not just the money and how much I'm spending, but it's also, like you were saying, what are the ingredients that I'm putting into my food? Like you go to a restaurant, you don't really know, like, what kind of oil are they using? I want to know all the different ingredients that are going into my food. And the other thing is, I think maybe there's this trend, or maybe it's just me, where it's like, I don't want to live beyond my means. I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to owe anybody any money. I just want to, if I can afford to fill in the blank, then I can decide if I want to do it or not. But I'm not going to spend money that I don't have. And so much of like going out to eat is kind of like a disposable income, because it's expensive to go out and eat, spend a couple hundred. Like I have a client who was just in Vegas over the weekend, and was like, they went to some big fancy steakhouse, and we're like, 8 people. They're like, she's like, how much do you think the bill was? And I said, I don't know, $3,000. And she's like, well, it was only $1,500, but it's still a lot. I was like, okay, well, I was just thinking maybe you guys bought some crazy wine or something like that, because I knew they were going with some heavy hitters. But $1,500 for 8 people. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's, of course, you go to a steakhouse, at the minimum, you're going to spend $100 a person. And that's without buying any alcohol. That's just like, maybe you get like a petite filet and a salad, you know,
And a
or a
glass of ice
petite
water.
petite fillet and a side of mashed potatoes. You know, it's like you're not getting a fillet or a ribeye or, you know, a large fillet and three sides and a salad and a glass of wine. I mean, now you're pushing into the, you know, mid hundreds or $200 range. So it's just a lot. It's like, that's, you know, it's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
I don't value steaks that much.
Exactly.
I
Well, I
just
can
think
go
of
to the
us.
butcher shop in my neighborhood and buy a steak for, you know, like, I don't know, $20 or something, you know? So, and it's just as good as the one that I would get at the steakhouse. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. So my mom got an email earlier today from Red Robin,
Hmm.
and it was for a cheeseburger and bottomless fries for $10.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
that's what we're doing for dinner. But the reason I bring it up is my brain automatically, when she pulled that email up, I
Yeah.
started doing the math of how much the restaurant might be potentially making off of a $10 offer when it's bottomless fries, because you know there are people out there that can eat their weight times two in French fries, and that is going to cost the restaurant money. So
Well, the thing
that's,
is though, like potatoes are like, you know, I worked in a steakhouse for, I don't know, 10 years, and they don't make their money on the steaks. They make all their money on the side dishes, you know, because potatoes are not that expensive, but then you're going to sell a side of mashed potatoes for $10 and it's going to cost them like $1 to make it. You know, alcohol is the other big money maker too. So it's like you're making money on the salads, the sides, and the uh the alcohol, but not the beef. The beef is what gets people in there, but you're not making any money on the beef because it's expensive.
yeah, so they're hoping that I order a cocktail. I even think about this with sodas and coffee, because a cup of coffee they charge you like $3.50, $4, $4.50, depending on what restaurant you're
Yeah,
in, and it's like pennies
yeah,
to make
totally.
coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Make
Yeah.
it at home.
It's amazing. It's, you know, coffee is like a brilliant legal drug, you know, where like they get people addicted to it. It doesn't cost a lot to make, but they can charge people whatever they want to charge them because everyone's like, you know, addicted to the caffeine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it worked. I mean, the email marketing worked. We're like, yes, we need a $10 cheeseburger with bottomless fries. It's like the last thing I need to be eating. But no.
Autumn nominated us, is nominating me for president and you for Pope. Thank you, Autumn.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
We'll be a good
Oh my
dynamic
gosh.
duo, Dallisa.
We are a dynamic duo. Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes. And if, summertime, people are going to be traveling. Some are going to tune in live. Some are going to watch the replay. All good. We're just going to roll with it and keep everybody up to date each week. And
Yeah.
if you're really enjoying this, please share this video with a few people. Maybe copy the link and text it to a few friends. Tell them to check it out. We would really appreciate it. The more people that are aware of the energy that we're working with, the easier you get to move through life. And so
Yes.
please share it with a few people. We'd really, really appreciate it. And if you haven't given the video a thumbs up, make sure you click the thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you haven't done that yet, so you get all notifications for future episodes, because Scott's going to be back next Tuesday as well. So we'll have more headlines to talk about. But before we pull the jar winner, I want to just check in with you, Scott. We know your website is theweeklytransit.com. You have a podcast, you have a book. What else is cooking? Is there anything you want to share with the audience?
You know, just check out the podcast, The Weekly Transit. It comes out twice a week. One time a week, I'm just highlighting all the transits, and the other time I'm doing an interview with somebody. And yeah, you know, if you're curious to know how these transits are affecting you directly, and you want guidance using your astrological code, then I ask you to reach out to me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com.
Yes. theweeklytransit.com. And you've got your book. I think you've got like a teaser on your website too, right? For your book,
A teaser?
like a sneak peek, or is that on Amazon?
Maybe it's on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on Amazon. It's for sale for like $1.99 or something. So, so I'm not making any money off of it. I just want people to have it. And, so it's really inexpensive, during these recession times. And, it's just a guide to help you understand the language of astrology. It's like, just pictures of all the different symbols that I drew by hand and explaining what all the different symbols mean. So you can learn to read your astrological code, or at least decode what your astrological code is saying, understanding what these symbols mean. That's what it's about. The basics of astrology.
I love it. I just dropped the spelling of your name in the Zoom chat.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So folks can go and look it up.
Dallisa. Yeah.
Of course. Let's see. What do I have going on? I don't know. There's always a few things. Yes. Sacred Signals I talk about every week. This is the annual membership is now available, or monthly. If you do monthly, it's $15 a month. You can cancel anytime. And that's over on my website. Sign up so you can come to the June masterclass that I'm teaching. That's going to be blending high frequency channeled meditation with music, with journaling prompts. We're going to have a lot of fun. And everyone who's an annual member will be invited to that. So check that out at spiritandspark.com. And I think I got one more thing. Yes. So the June community class is Journey to Past Lives and Reincarnation. I think this is probably going to sell out faster than anything I've done recently. I think last count this morning, there was like 86 people already registered for it. And this doesn't happen until June 26th. So it's selling really, really fast. And you get to name your own price. Seriously, no strings attached. You get the same class everybody else gets. And you get the live on June 26th in the evening. And you also get the full replay. So I'm going to be talking to you about what I've learned in the last decade about past lives and reincarnation. I'll take you through a journey to see one of your own past lives. It's just going to be so much fun. So if you haven't signed up for that, consider this one of your warnings because it will sell out. Okay. And then everyone knows my website, spiritandspark.com. Take your psychic power quiz, and then you'll get all my updates. Awesome. Yes, it'll put you on my email list too, so you can find out when I'm teaching a new class. Okay, I think I got through all of my stuff. Yeah. Okay, so the name that I pull out of the jar will win the personalized 12-month tarot card report. You have until 11:59 p.m. tonight, June 3rd, 2025, to email me and tell me that you were the winner. So if you do that by tonight, you get the report. So I'm going to pop my email address there in the live chat right now. So you've got that. So I'm just going to do the drum roll and see who we pull out. All right. I think we need like a rattle or like a tambourine or something. I'll work on that. Once I get unpacked, I'm sure I have a drum somewhere or a rattle somewhere. Okay. The winner for this week is Terry H. Terry, Terri, Terry H. If that is what your screen name is here in the live Zoom chat, or the live, where are we, YouTube chat, that means that you are the winner. So Terry, make sure you send me an email by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time tonight, and we'll get that report off to you. Scott, it's a pleasure again to do this show with you and to talk about all of the things. And we'll be back next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. So excited, Dallisa. Thank you so much. So great to see you.
It'll be fun. Yes. Good seeing you too. Stay safe out there, everybody. Remember to listen to your inner guidance. It will lead you down the right pathway. So we'll see you again soon. Bye.